Hi, everyone. It's Kelly from the Hub here today with our friend Angela. Remember her? She's from CAP and talks to us about domestic violence issues. And she brought a friend with her today, too. So, Angela, hello. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. How are you, Kelly?
I am doing very well. So, who did you bring to our fun talk?
Yeah, so I brought Rachel today. She is the managing attorney at our legal clinic. So
Ah,
back in one of the early programs when I talked about all of the different services that we have the emergency safe house, we have a transitional housing program, we have a legal clinic, a civil legal clinic. And so those services are designed to provide civil legal assistance to victims and survivors of domestic violence. And so that's our third site out of the three locations that we have. And Rachel is the managing attorney there. And I thought it would be great for the community to learn more about the civil legal services that we provide. It's more than just a protection from abuse order. That's a very important tool for victims and survivors, but there are more remedies available to them. And Rachel is a great person to tell us about that.
oh,
Rachel,
that's wonderful. Excellent. Hi, Rachel. How are you?
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. At first glance, I think people would think, hmm, the domestic violence program keeps an attorney on staff.
Mhm.
Things really do. Okay. I mean, some people are like, things really do get that bad, even
Mm.
though we have talked about this for a while. I think people would find that unusual.
Well, it's not, and the legal center here in Lancaster has been in existence for about 20 years. So
Ah,
it has been around for fortunately quite some time.
yeah.
And what we know is for victims of domestic violence, getting out of the abusive relationship is really just the tip of the iceberg. And so often people leaving an abusive relationship need to file for a protection order. And certainly, even though they can represent themselves, they are usually more successful with what their goals are if they're represented by an attorney.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, people leaving abusive relationships have children with the abusive partner and need to file a custody action, child support, and divorce. So there's a whole plethora of issues that arise. And lawyers, as we know, are incredibly expensive.
Right. So being able to have that service is for anybody who's a victim in these cases is incredibly wonderful.
Yeah,
I mean, it
it's pretty
takes such
amazing.
a weight off of your shoulders. I mean, you're
Mhm.
facing all of those things, and then I gotta find an attorney, and how am I ever going to pay for that?
Sure. And
So
I
that's
do know,
wonderful.
yeah, and I do know in all my years, and I've represented victims of domestic violence in civil cases, I guess it's been about 20 years. But oftentimes, what I've seen over the years is, clients coming in to my office when they are able to obtain an attorney, they really feel empowered, and more in control of what's happening to them because it's like, okay, I've got an attorney, so it really is also kind of very empowering for them to feel like, they have someone to assist them to navigate the court system, which is, complicated and not so fun on your own, and that they have someone that has their back.
So I just want to make sure that all of our viewers sort of understand what kind of cases you do
Mhm.
versus other kinds of cases. So
Sure.
you're a civil attorney and you represent those kinds of cases. Can you make sure you talk about the clarification between what kinds of things those are
Sure.
versus
Sure.
criminal cases?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, my legal center does not do any criminal cases at all. We're not funded to do that. So, if someone needs a criminal attorney and they qualify financially, they would be entitled to an attorney through the public defender's office. And if they are over income, they would need to hire a private attorney. The cases we take are civil in nature. So, we represent individuals in protection from abuse actions. I also do a lot of custody work, a lot of divorce work, And I also represent individuals in child and spousal support actions. So the whole sort of family law scope of cases is what we handle at the center.
Okay. All right. That really clears it up, because I think people are like, I've got several things we could talk about. But
Yeah, it can be confusing. And
right.
again, in order to qualify for our services, you have to currently be a victim of domestic violence or have been a domestic violence victim at some point in your past. So that is sort of the number one qualifier for our services.
And do you find that having this collab, like having an on-staff legal representative, do you feel like it makes the program more successful, and that the public really is like accesses those services because they know that it does like such good work?
Absolutely. I think this is my fourth legal center I've worked at that's trying to remember, attached to a domestic violence program. And it is an amazing collaboration because individuals who are accessing services through domestic violence services, the domestic violence program, are then referred directly to us. And again, myself and the other two attorneys and the other staff at the legal center are highly trained in domestic violence. They get it, they understand it. And it's a great connection and collaboration for attorneys and the legal staff to work very closely with the advocates at the program, to make sure that individuals who are receiving services from the program as well as us are having their needs met. So it's really a great way to connect and ensure that people that are seeking services are getting all the services they really need.
I think it's also it's great for our partners in the community.
Absolutely.
So, when somebody is going through a criminal case, and let's say, they're working with law enforcement or they're working with somebody in the prosecutor's office, and they get an inkling that maybe there's a civil matter here that they should address, they can refer them to the legal clinic. And the legal clinic and DVS has been building those relationships, like Rachel said, for the 20 years that the legal clinic's been here. There's no way that we would be able to provide those services also, without having the support of our partners in law enforcement and prosecution and others in the community. So it's great when I go out and do, education programs in the community and talk about DVS, I get to talk about the legal clinic and the value and services that they have to offer in the community. People are really surprised and pleasantly surprised that it's there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I mean, this is truly what we talk about. This is the meaning of wraparound services, that you don't, like Angela, your work with the family doesn't just end with, okay, I hope everything's good. Good luck, right? You have people that can do the next step. Not that that is how that works anyway, but you have people who can take the next step if and when that next step is needed, whether it's in the prosecutor's office or it's with this civil, legal clinic. It's an amazing service to be able to have for any of these victims.
And it's really about providing holistic services because, again, as I said, we know that a victim of domestic violence leaving the abuser is just the tip of the iceberg. And, they need counseling, they need housing, they need employment training, they need legal services. And so it's wonderful that our agency is able to provide those services in-house.
Yeah.
And so we talked about a couple of weeks when we talked about like what is domestic violence and the impact on victims and survivors. We also talked a little bit about how abusers use children and use the access to children to continue to harass and threaten and abuse the victim. And I've worked in a county where we did not have a legal center as part of our program. And it was really challenging because then we had to refer them, there's Mid-Penn Legal Services. So we referred them there, but they're also limited and they don't focus specifically on providing services to victims of domestic violence. And so it gets to when we're looking at, victims starting to create a path forward in ending the abuse, in leaving that relationship, in changing the dynamics of that relationship, child custody, child support issues, even spousal support, if that's available to them, having that financial support can be really key for them. And also creating ways to cut off or eliminate that access that the abuser has to them, because they will. A case I remember 20 years ago, and there was a lot of criminal charges, in part because there was a custody order that continued to be violated, and then it turned into some other things. But the abuser was using the child and the child custody exchanges and things like that to continue to harass and abuse the victim.
Right.
And we see that so much. And so having our legal center available, just opens that door up for victims and survivors.
Yeah. I am a child of divorce, and custody and support is, that's contentious a lot, most of the time. So when you're in the middle of an issue or that surrounds domestic violence, and then you have to lay on custody, support, divorce, all that kind of stuff. It's a miracle that people survive both things. It's hard enough to do one, let alone have to do both and pretty much simultaneously. So truly, and I can see that, truly having someone in your corner, it allows that person to actually be able to think the normalist they can.
Sure.
Because all of this trauma is being taken care of by somebody else.
Absolutely. So, at the legal center, it's our job to bear the burden, to handle the legal stuff and the courts and navigate and, do all that. Because, for people, whether domestic violence is present or not, for people involved in a custody dispute, they never planned for this. They never thought this was going to happen. And so this is just an absolute terrible time in their lives. And then you layer on the domestic violence, which only exacerbates it. So, it's not like someone who planned to get a will and went to the lawyer's office, right? Like that's planned and that's, right.
But
this is
right. Everybody sort of has a will.
Yeah.
That's
and, right. In these situations, these are people's lives exploding. Their family is coming apart. And, children are, as a parent, are our most prized things in life. And so it's tough.
Yeah. This is going to get shouted, not that it hasn't already in many other circles, but in my community, this is going to get shouted from the rooftops. Because to be able to say to someone, not only do I got you, but I got you in a couple other ways too. We're dealing with some pretty unattractive stuff, with rent and all that stuff and COVID and people's financial losses. And, and Angela and I have talked previously that the numbers, it was weird when the phones sort of stopped-ish ringing at the beginning of this. And I'm nervous about that again. But I think that having all of these tools for our community means that I can go, hey, let's talk. We got this.
Right.
There's people we can help. There's ways we can make this work. So yeah, this is absolutely tremendous.
I will say, and I know a lot of programs such as, the domestic violence services in the beginning of the shutdown, their numbers really dropped in terms of phone calls. The legal centers didn't, and so people were still needing to file for protection orders, still needing services, And so that's continued. And frankly, as things kind of started to reopen from the red phase or whatever it was in the beginning of the shutdown,
Yeah.
like red, yellow, green, right. As things sort of eased, we saw an increase in, people feeling like they could leave their house finally and maybe file their protection order or, kind of maybe feel a little safer to do those things they didn't before. So, yeah, that's remained constant and has increased.
Thank you for this, Angela. Thank you for bringing Rachel in. Rachel, thank you. Thank you for what you do for everyone.
Thank you for having me. And obviously, if anyone in the community is in need of assistance or has questions or isn't sure what to do,
yeah,
absolutely. All they need to do is call the legal center, and they will be screened and provided with the appropriate information and kind of pointed in the right direction. So please, please, please encourage people, just call us. That's what we're here for.
And we will put that number in this posting so that there's easy access to this. And Angela, do you want to end with telling people how they can text and reach out to your services as well?
Absolutely. So the number for the legal center is 717-291-5826. They can also reach them through our 24-hour hotline. We can get information from them and then make the referral over to the legal center. So the 24-hour hotline number is 717-299-1249. And our text line is, you text the word SAFE, SAFE, to the number 61222.
Wonderful. Thank you as always. Thank you to both of you. And Angela, we will chat again next week.
Yes, we will. I have another friend with me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. See you, everybody.
Thank you,
See ya.
Okay. Bye-bye.